Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Loyd, and welcome to the Spiritual Laws of Nature. Our spiritual law for today I call dying grace at dying time. And I have to start with a story because that's where it came from for me. I have a friend, and the story I'm about to tell you actually happened to my friend. There was a professor at a very prestigious university, I believe in California. And of course, as there almost always is, there was a favorite professor on the campus of that prestigious university. The one that just really connects with all the students, and they love his class, they love him. They find it interesting and fun to go to his class, not a chore. He's passionate about the work and what he's doing, but he also loves and cares about the students, and they feel it. And he'd been there for a long, long time. And one day, as happens so many times, he's not feeling good, goes in, they run tests, and he has last stage cancer. And it's going to be the painful kind, not the easy kind, okay? And so they propose all these treatments and everything. But anyway, he decides that he's going to keep teaching until he can't teach anymore. So just like he has for decades, but a little bit different now, every day he's going in, teaching his classes, meeting with students, things like that. But he's in severe pain to agony every single day. After that had been going on for a while, and the students had seen no perceptible negative change in him, either in his teaching or in his love for them or his available time or the just love and caring and kindness from his face when they saw him. In fact, most of them had remarked that it seemed to have even gone up, even though he's in this severe to agonizing pain every day. Well, one day, one student came to speak with him in his office, and this was his favorite professor too, knocks on the door. The professor says, "Come on in, have a seat." And he does, and he says, I've just got one question. And before I ask the question, I just want to tell you how much I've appreciated you. You're my absolute favorite. I've learned so much. You've had this big impact on who I want to become in my life now. But here's my question. How are you doing this? How are you not only teaching basically the same schedule you've always taught, but you do not show one hint of being diminished or not paying us as much attention or being slightly less kind or nothing. If anything, you're more the way we've all loved than we've ever seen. How are you doing this in severe to agonizing pain every day? And the professor smiled and said 5 words. Dying grace at dying time. And to me, those words are extremely profound. We have been talking in the spiritual laws for months here on YouTube, and then for years before that on a podcast about these spiritual laws and how they apply, and one of the main things it all comes down to is, are you living on the path of fear or on the path of love, or are you living more on one than the other and trying to change that in your life so that you're living on the path of love the great majority of the time. And if you do that, then your body will not malfunction. It'll work the way it's supposed to work. You will most likely, according to wonderful research, this particular one was on the front page of USA Today a few years ago, you'll have a 300% greater chance of not being sick by middle age and living healthy and happy to old age if you're on that path of love rather than the path of fear. I've never seen any other single factor come anywhere close to that much of a difference as which of these paths you're on. But that one does make that much difference. Well, when you're on the path of fear, let's start there, and a trauma comes, okay, and they're going to come. They come for all of us. I don't know how God worked it out, but nobody gets to live their life without pain. No one. It doesn't happen. 20 years ago, I thought there were 5 or 6 people I'd met in my life where everything was easy and just worked, and they never had to go through. So I contacted every single one of them, and every one of them laughed out loud when I asked them that question and said, "Oh, goodness, no. Man, we have been through gut-wrenching, life-changing, hang on by your fingertips pain," and some of them still were. So no one gets out of that one, all right? So no matter which path you're on, you're going to have pain. The difference on the fear path, it's meaningless pain. On the love path, it's meaningful pain. And when you embrace that painful situation and do it in love and learn the lessons from it, it takes you to the next higher level in your life, which is a wonderful thing. So we even need those things to learn and keep becoming a better and better at living in love, okay? We may never get there totally, but better and better. So when the pain and trauma comes and you're on the fear path, or your body is in a fear state, fight or flight, stress, you know the answers. The 3 things are fight, freeze, and flee. So that's what you immediately do. And your unconscious mind bypasses your conscious mind to mandate the release of fear hormones, fear chemicals, a fear brain state, and fear actions and behaviors. Either fight, run, or just kind of cocoon or fetal position yourself. All right? Well, sometimes that gets you through the trauma pretty well. Even if it does get you through pretty well, once it's over, you're a total vegetable and feel like you've got to have days sometimes to recover. All right? But there's a great possibility that because your IQ was literally turned way down once the fear response took over, that you go through that trauma and pain and make a critical bad decision. Many of the things that have ruined people's lives, I've been doing counseling, therapy, and coaching for over 30 years. Many of the things that people have done that have ruined their lives, you know, that 1, 2, or 3 things in your life that you can never make up for that or take it back. Most things you can make up for or at least heal, but there's usually 1, 2, or 3 in every person's life you can't, or it's very, very difficult, okay? Those tend to come from bad decisions when trauma and pain hits and you're on the fear path, because you literally have your decision-making ability turned way down, unless it's the decision to climb a tree to get away from the wolf, or to pull my car over so the tractor trailer doesn't run over me and kill me. Now, you're really good at those kind of things. But not many of us are having those kind of traumas and pains happen. They're happening at work. They're happening in relationships. They're happening in health, things like that. Well, that fight or flight, turning your IQ down, you're not supposed to be making major decisions when you're in that place. You're only supposed to be saving your life, which takes usually about 15 minutes, and then you're right back to chemical, hormonal, and thinking peace. All right? But if the pain and trauma hit while you're on the fear path, or if the pain and trauma spike your fear because it activates some internal memory with a lie in it, in your ancestry or unconscious or subconscious, etc., then you're going to go through that trauma and pain in fear with negative hormones, chemicals, actions, thoughts, feelings, and making a bad decision has just gotten really easy. On the other side, when pain and trauma hit and you are on the fear path, or you're committed to living your life, the love path, and you're committed way down deep in your heart to the marrow of your bones to living in love as best you can. Never do it right, but best you can, no matter what the circumstances and no matter what the results. When the pain and trauma hit, then you stay on the love side. You stay on the love path, which means you have turned up IQ, creative problem solving. You're going to do it out of love, joy, peace, rather than selfishness, what's in it for me, anxiety, and anger. Well, those two are going to look very, very different. Even if it's the same person saying the same words, doing the same actions, they're going to look and feel very different. All right? You're going to go through that trauma, if you're on the love path, in the best possible way to go through it. You're going to be open to learning the lesson from it. Over here, you don't care about a lesson. You're just trying to survive this thing, okay? You've got all these negative thoughts and feelings about it. Over here, you have positive ones. What can this teach me? What can I learn that I've never learned before? You go through it, and maybe when you go through it, you're tired, you need to rest, but there's also kind of a celebration feeling because you know in your heart, I did that in love. Maybe not perfectly, but a lot. Way more than I used to or could have been in fear. And many, many times the outcome you're going to see of the pain or trauma will be very, very different from going through it on the fear side. So, how do you do it? How do you do that? First of all, you may have to clean up some of the junk in your heart, as Solomon called it. Use the calm mechanism, activating the vagus nerve, turning every negative thought into a prayer, the miracle meditation, trilogy, memory engineering, all those wonderful tools that sometimes can change these things in minutes rather than months or years. At least that's been my experience and the experience of the studies that have studied some of these modalities at universities. Just found out about two of them recently, one on cancer and one on wives of addicts, and both showed dramatic, significant difference using the healing codes, going through that to heal it. But anyway, so chances are your experience going through it will be different. Your decisions will be better. The outcome will be different, usually better. And there's a sense of victory versus just a sense of, like, I want to sleep for 4 days. And then it will also take you up a little higher, having dealt with a pain and trauma situation in that way. And it'll do it every time you do it. Every time you go through one of those in love, it'll take you up a little bit higher in your life. Okay? So, But to get to the love side, if you're on the fear side, you've got to clean some of that stuff up, and then you have to get to a place, and this is all in The Greatest Principle. If you want to watch those videos on the YouTube back from when we started. But anyway, you need to clean that up in your heart. Those memories and thoughts and feelings that have lies in them. The lie is almost always the perception, the therefore. Because this happened, therefore, well, it's not a lie that the event happened, usually. But the therefore, about 50% of the time, is wrong. And the therefore tends to be negative and work against your self-worth and identity. It tends to be anxiety and anger producing and cause pain. The 50% that are in error, all right? So you may have to clean some of those up. You've got to get to a place with your own free will where you're finally able to say, I vow, I choose, and it's not for 10 minutes, it's not for 10 years, for the rest of my life, no matter what happens, to live in the present moment in love, regardless of my circumstances, regardless of the end result. I'll mess up and I'll get back on the horse, but now you can say that and not mean it. You can say it and want to mean it, but you don't. But once you get to a place where you can really mean it, that is the moment that will switch you from the fear path to the love path. And again, we've talked much more about that in other spiritual laws. Here's the main point for today. If you're on the love path, you will always get dying grace at dying time. What does that mean? It means you will get the power to deal with something the best way possible to deal with it when it's time to do that thing. Now that's very important, because what we want is we want the answers and we want the power before we take the first step. Okay? Because I may not go there if I'm not going to be able to deal with this thing. That's not the way dying grace works. You get dying grace at dying time. Okay? And just substitute anything for the word dying. You get marriage grace at marriage time. Okay? If you're committed to the path of love and you hit a situation in your marriage that is a roadblock, that hurts, that threatens the marriage, if you are living on the love path, you will get marriage grace at marriage time. If you have a health issue, but you are committed to living on the path of love and are doing your best to do that, okay? Now, I make 20 mistakes a day. That's okay. That's part of it. It's just what you're committed to, what that, for the rest of my life, intention is. All right? So it may be a health thing. You get health grace at health time. It may be your career, and you really need to become a good public speaker, and you're one of those people, one of those 1 in 2 people, where getting up to speak in public is literally life or death. And is more scary than dying. But you need to become a good public speaker to do what you need to do in your life. If you're on the love path, you'll be given speaking grace at speaking time. If your career is starting some small business and selling a product that is win-win-win for everyone. You make enough money to make the company successful. The people get a good product at a good price. There are no losers, only winners. You will get business, career, success grace at success time. Meaning, in every one of those situations, you have to have 2 things. You have to be on the love path, and you have to take the first step in faith before you get the power or the clear thinking or which decision is best. You have to take the first step by faith without the power that comes from that grace. Okay? If you're on the fear side, it's almost impossible to take that first step of faith. You'll take a step, but it won't be in faith. It'll be in terror, and I've got to control the outcome of this because I'm terrified of the end result. You'll end up making a mistake. You'll be exhausted. It'll be a trauma in you for the rest of your life that affects your health and emotions and everything else. Okay? But if you're on the love path, and I know most people live on both sometimes, all right? But if you're enough in the love path, and I think that enough percentage is probably different for everyone, then at the time in your life that you need the power, you need the words, you need the energy, you need the ideas, you need things in your circumstances to happen and come together over things you don't have control of. If you live on the love path, you will get that power and that grace at the time you're ready to put your hands on it and do it after taking a step of faith. Most people I've worked with had never experienced that even once in their life. Some had, but not many. Some people live their life on the love path to some extent, but they don't receive this bonus, this extra special power that comes from grace because they're not aware of it. They're not wanting it. They're not asking for it. They're not. So I would recommend, if you are trying to live on the path of love, start praying about it, start asking for, start looking for dying grace at dying time in whatever the trauma or emergency or pain or great opportunity or whatever it is that you're confronted with in your life. And I believe with all my heart, if you will recommit to love going through that and ask for it, it may happen even if you don't ask for it, you will be given the power to do that thing the best way you could possibly do it. And have it, once it's done, take you to another higher level in your life. Try it. It can be very profound. So, hope you have a wonderful, blessed week. It's hot here. I'm dressed accordingly. It's very hot here, but wonderful. So, dying grace at dying time. Try it this week.